Are you caring for others while working and trying to live your own life? Wondering how to find the time for your own health and happiness? Well, you're in the right place. The Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast, which is part of the Whole Care Network, is the show where real family caregivers share how to be happy and healthy while caring for others. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Elizabeth Miller. I'm a fellow family caregiver, a care advocate, a professional speaker, author, certified caregiving consultant, and certified senior advisor. If this is your first time listening, thank you for being here. This is a show produced bi-weekly to help family caregivers integrate self-care and caregiving into their lives. Each episode has an accompanying show notes page. If you'd like more detail about the topics, products, and resources we speak about, or you want to see any of the related photos, you'll find the show notes by going to the website happyhealthycaregiver.com, and underneath the podcast menu, click the image or episode number for today's show. Now let's get to it. Let's jump into this episode. Before we dive into this episode with Carrie Severson, I want to first share a couple things with you on my own. First of all, I want to invite you to the Self-Care at Sea cruise that is happening in October of 2025. Me and my daughter are going, and several of other influencers and professionals in this space are joining us. And we want to invite you, family caregivers and other professionals, and actually anyone who just enjoys cruising, to come and join us. We are going to have some specific programming and activities for family caregivers, but you can certainly, explore all that the cruise has to offer, and we'd love to interact with you. We are excited about this because this is a great way for caregivers to get the respite that they deserve by having this wonderful time, set aside for them to just be themselves. Although you can certainly bring your care recipient with you if you choose, but perhaps you're thinking about this as respite for yourself. And then we want you to leave with a community of resources and support once you return back home. I would love for you to check this out, our Self-Care at Sea cruise, and you'll do that by going to bit.ly/HHC Self-Care Cruise. And you can learn all about it, and be sure to reach out if you have any questions. I'd like to thank our episode sponsor, Crazy Compression. Do you ever feel like your feet and your legs are exhausted by the end of the day, or maybe you've noticed a bit of swelling after sitting or standing for too long? Well, I want to introduce you to Crazy Compression Socks. It's a fun solution to keeping your legs feeling fresh and energized. These aren't just any socks, by the way. They're designated to boost circulation, reduce fatigue, and make a serious style statement. Crazy Compression Socks combine top-notch support with bold, fun patterns that let you express your personality. Whether you're a nurse, a traveler, an athlete, or a caregiver on your feet all day, these socks are going to change the way that you think about comfort. Head over to crazycompression.com and use the code HHC20 for 20% off of your order, and give your legs the energy they deserve. I want to talk about a book that I read recently that I guess is technically in the horror genre. The title is also appropriately named for this episode where we're talking about burnout, but it really doesn't have anything to do with burnout. But it's called The Breakdown, and it's a novel by B.A. Paris. Late one night, a woman drives by a stranded motorist who is later revealed to have been murdered. And after a series of terrifying events, the woman believes that she is the killer's next victim. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars because it grabbed me definitely in the beginning, and certainly at the end, and maybe in the middle. I had to, that was what kind of prevented it from a 5-star read for me. I did struggle a little bit with the main character being hard to like sometimes, and several parts of it were a little bit unbelievable, but we're reading fiction here, so I gotta kind of let that go. When I was researching this to put into this podcast, I realized that they also made this book into a movie called Blackwater Lane, and it stars Minka Kelly, Dermot Mulrooney, and Maggie Grace. So I have added that to my Prime so that I can stream that there. I do think it costs money on Prime. I also believe it could be on Peacock. By the way, because this book's called The Breakdown, I want to share with you that a break for caregivers is much better than a breakdown. But we'll link to this in the show notes. My favorite thing this week that I want to share with you is something called Flav City Electrolyte. Flav City is the brand. It's an electrolyte drink mix. I like a lot of the flavors. The one I've got here with me today is lemon lime, which is one of my favorites. When I first, thought about electrolytes, now my husband did used to sell an electrolyte drink, so that kind of made me smarter about electrolytes. But even then, I kind of thought that it was for athletic type of days, or if you've been overserved alcohol and you need to rehydrate, or for people who were really sick, particularly like during COVID, we were sharing a lot of electrolytes. And yes to all of this, but it's for every day too. So I hired a health coach last fall, and Health with Hunter is his name on Instagram. He recommended drinking one of these daily. And this was a brand that he did recommend because it is clean, gluten-free, doesn't have natural flavors and all of that other stuff in it. And the reason why the electrolytes can be great for you is that they do help you with hydration. You know, they help your body absorb water more effectively. They can boost your energy. I find that when I drink one mid-afternoon, we as caregivers certainly need that. They can prevent muscle cramps. They can improve mental clarity because it's got that sodium and potassium, which is good for your brain function. And they can strengthen our immune systems by maintaining a healthy balance of essential minerals, which we need because we're certainly kind of exposed to a lot of different things. It has helped me reduce soda intake, and sometimes I just want something besides water. I do enjoy it after a workout or being out in the sun, but I've been starting to just incorporate these into my daily habits. If you haven't tried these out before, I'm going to recommend the variety pack, so that you can kind of try out the different flavors. I will say, like, when you put them in water and you don't want to put them in the water with the ice right away, you might also want like a little handheld blender, whether it's a frother or some types of blender, because it can get a little kind of clumpy in your water. But that does the trick every time. It's just the little handheld blender. And then throw your ice in afterwards so you can make it cold. So I'm going to link to this, the Flav City electrolytes. Let me know what you think about them. In this episode of the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast, we are joined by Carrie Severson. She's a caregiver to her husband, Gavin, and a recognized expert in burnout. Carrie shares how her personal caregiving journey inspired her advocacy work, storytelling, and her podcast, I Saved You. Now, do the dishes. We dive into the difference between caregiver burnout and the entrepreneurial burnout that Carrie previously experienced and has spoken about. She also recounts a shocking experience with a disruptive healthcare professional and how she successfully had them removed from her care team. Plus, Carrie reveals some of her go-to self-care practices, including cold therapy, box breathing, and using music as a powerful healing tool. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, Carrie. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have a great conversation with you today. We do always kind of kick off the show by, inspiration, motivation, whatever, from this very rustic looking Happy Healthy Caregiver jar. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this quote from today.
Okay, sounds great.
It says, oops, it wants me to pull three. Let's pull one. It says, what you deny or ignore, you delay. What you accept and face, you conquer. Any thoughts on that?
The first thought that came to my mind is that's pretty much what most burnouts deal with. Like, we're in a space where we just keep going, we just keep fighting, we just keep thinking, if I just get this one more thing, something will change, right? Versus accept the fact that we can't do it all right now. We have to sort of surrender to something.
Yes.
And lean into the places that we're probably being intuitively guided towards. But we've got so much adrenaline, we've got so much fight or flight, so much ramped up that it's really hard to hear that. And so we just keep shoving that down.
It's so true. It took me a minute to figure that out as well. And, but one of the mantras that I used to say, or that I kind of clung to, was you can have it all, just not all at once.
Right.
And I get it. Like I'm a recovering productivity ninja, sometimes feeling like your worth is based on how much you're getting done in the day. And that's not sustainable.
Right. Absolutely. So and pulling three versus one. That's very typical for this.
Let's go in.
Let's just do them all. We can do it all.
Yeah. We could just read the whole jar.
Right.
Sure.
It's very typical for my life.
That's so true.
That's on brand for me.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I'd love to hear, a little bit and introduce yourself to the caregiving community here that hasn't met you yet, but share your story about how you became a caregiver. How did it begin? And what's it been like for you and
Yeah.
your family?
Well, so my husband and I met in 2018. We have a very, you know, new age kind of modern story. We met on Bumble, and he was married previously, so we had kind of like a rough start where he has kids and we were, you know, consolidating houses and everything. We were supposed to get married 32 days before the original COVID shutdown happened,
Okay.
and that sort of put a huge buckle in our plans. But eventually, we were one of those couples that got married on Zoom and then had a really hard time finding a house in the housing market. And so we finally found this beautiful place I'm sitting in September of 2023. And 6 weeks later, in a brand new place, trying to start our life together, he wakes up and he's got this golf ball sized lump on the side of his neck. And he comes out of the bedroom and he has his hand cupped over his neck. And he's like, honey, does my neck look big to you? And I'm like, haha, you know, there's going to be some
Yeah, you're
prank. You're
so
going to have,
vain.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
something, there's going to be something there. And he's like, no, seriously, look at me. And I'm, you know, brand new home. There's all these kids running around. It's a Saturday. My stepkids have made friends really quickly. There's like 10 5-year olds running around, and I'm scooping mac and cheese into bowls. And the way he said my name made my stomach just like tighten up. And sure enough, there's this lump.
Aw.
And that was October 28th. And by November, or he was diagnosed with cancer November 28th. By January 22nd, he was in radiation and chemo. He had head and neck cancer. It was quite
Wow.
severe. And I went from being an entrepreneur, a author, a speaker, traveling the country, leading people through burnout recovery retreats and seminars, to all of that stopped. And my full-time job was him.
Yeah.
He was on so much medication. He couldn't drive himself. He would literally stand asleep. He would fall asleep standing up. It was very severe. And yeah, you know, I've known a ton of people who've had cancer. My father-in-law was a caregiver, and I really didn't anticipate what it would be like or how hard it would be
Right.
until I'm in the thick of it. And I'm like, how do people do anything else but this?
And you're a smart, savvy lady that, is teaching about burnout recovery.
Yeah.
And then here you are kind of like,
In the throat. Yeah, it was bad.
do you think you experienced caregiver burnout?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And
Did you recognize the signs or were you like, yeah, okay.
I knew I was back in it when I was in it. And I kept saying that. I'm like, okay, so I need to practice what I'm preaching. I need my tools. I would do all the things that I knew to do. But the difference between entrepreneurship burnout and caregiving burnout is legitimate life or death. Like if I stopped doing the things I needed to do for him, and he had to come first because his literal life was on the line. Yeah, I say that a lot. There's coming out of caregiving burnout is so much harder. And I was recently actually just triggered. Somebody else really close to me was diagnosed with cancer. And I was immediately went back into like navigating and practical tools and advocating. And I found myself like walking my dog at twice the pace that we normally walk and pacing. And I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. This is it. Like there was another layer. It was very easy for me to slip back into that because there wasn't enough space between what had just happened. And I'm still healing. Like this morning I started my day doing the tools I know how to do, cold therapy, box breathing. I'm standing outside. I'm very aware of this is a journey. This isn't like a quick fix.
No, no. And it's like a daily thing too. It's like,
Yep.
you know, doing something here and there. And like you said, kind of like, what your tools are. And sometimes they don't work. And you've got to
Yeah.
kind of like adapt and pivot.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got like a checklist of what's going to work today, what's going to work in this moment, and you just keep going down the checklist until you find something that does.
It's like trying on clothes. That's how I kind
Yeah.
of describe self-care strategies. It's like you're trying on clothes and it's like, well, how does this make me look? How does it make me look today? You know,
Hmm.
it is so different. I find it fascinating that well, first of all, this, the trauma for sure about caregiving is real. And in some ways you're a super gift to this space for sure, because you've had this years of expertise on entrepreneurial burnout and now being able to apply it to the caregiver space. And I just got to ask you, Carrie, like, is burnout a blessing for you?
Actually, it's so fascinating because this morning I was talking to my therapist, and she's like, my the trigger that I just had, and realizing I needed more time to heal. I wanted to start this year like, this is my year. It's not the cancer show. I can do these things. I want to get this out. And then it's almost like the universe went, wait, you're still not fully healed.
Right.
So in that sense, yes, I'm given the opportunity to slow down, work on myself, do the inner work first. And that's really, in order to come out of it, there's a lot of inner work that has to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that sense, it's absolutely.
And it's, I'm grateful that I'm an entrepreneur as a support caregiver for my brother now. Like, and if you need to lean into things, we can kind of adjust our schedule. But at the same time, we still gotta like make a living.
Right. Yep,
And so there's
absolutely.
still some stress factors there. Well, what are some of your like go-to strategies for
Tools.
the things that work for you in particular?
Cold therapy. I first experienced burnout as an entrepreneur in 2012, before burnout was a buzzword.
And what did that
And
look like? Like maybe we should stop, pause there, because like
yeah,
maybe people are burned out or slightly
don't even
charred,
know
I
it.
call it,
Yeah.
and they don't even know it.
So burnout is a nervous system issue. It is literally defined by having unmanaged chronic stress. And so everyone is stressed. Everyone has a ton of things to do during the day. Burnout happens when we're not able to properly manage, and we have prolonged exposure to unmanaged stress, right? Which is why caregiving burnout is so common. It's not usually just a week in this space, right? Or it's prolonged. And I had a nonprofit that sort of caught on fire overnight, in the mid 2000s. So I burned out pretty quickly, ran at a pace I was not prepared for. And nobody was really talking about it. So I had to piecemeal my own recovery, and I would do things that would make me feel better that sort of caught me by surprise. And so this one day, I got pushed into a pool that was super duper cold, and I came out and I felt I was like, wow, that's refreshing. I'm not, my body's freezing, but my insides feel calm. So cold therapy has always been something I've turned to as a caregiver.
Wait, what does
Jumping.
that look like for people if they want to try that on? Like,
Yep. So my favorite thing is using ice rollers. People use them for like, estheticians use them on your
oh, those little
face.
jade.
Yeah. I get
Okay,
really big ones. I get ones that are used for like athletes. They've started
okay.
on Amazon for like $7.
I'm gonna link to those. Yep.
And I stick them in my freezer, and I legitimately start my day with them. And so we have this nerve that runs up and down the sides of our neck called the vagus nerve. And I rub an ice roller up and down both sides of my neck for like 60 seconds while I'm, just breathing, taking deep breaths. Eventually, I will feel my body start to settle, and I'll start to sway. And that's my internal sign that I've
Ah,
turned off my fight or flight and I'm in a state of relaxation. But cold therapy is my number one go to.
I like
Research.
that because it's accessible to people. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to, dive into a pool or the
Yeah.
ocean or even take a cold shower. Like,
Right.
go to your freezer.
Yep. And they stay cold for a long time. And so I would grab it on the way to the hospital and I would use it. And it doesn't have to be like, 30 degrees. If you're using something between 50 and 65 degrees, technically it's cold therapy. So
Okay.
I would even
Nice.
grab ice cubes from like, the cafeteria and stick them in a napkin, and I would use it there. So
I have never tried it, so I'm intrigued. I'm going to try it. You've inspired me.
my dad has been facing some anxiety issues, and I just sent him an ice roller, and he took it to his doctor, and his doctor's like, "I approve. You should do this." And so yeah, I give them out whenever I have like speaking gigs. At least I used to. I haven't had a speaking gig in, well, yeah, last year. So it's only
Okay.
February, but I give them out as little. Instead of giving my books out, I give ice rollers out.
I love that. Love
It's what I
that.
do.
What else? What else works for you?
So the Navy SEALs do a breathing technique called box breathing, and if it's good enough for those guys, it's good enough for us. Box breathing is just a really easy exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and I typically do that as I'm running the ice thing up and down my neck, or I'm standing outside, letting my body just sort of get used to, stretching. Box
Hmm.
breathing is my number one, it's my go-to breathing technique.
Let's try it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, walk us through.
All right. So we're going to exhale for 4 counts first, and you can go as fast as you want. So exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. So just really,
Yeah, it's very accessible again. Like this is what I love. These are little micro acts that people can do, you
hmm
know, at a moment's notice, while you're sitting in a traffic light, like, anywhere. It's
yeah.
You've got your breath with you all the time.
So speaking of the traffic light, really easy things that we'd forget about: singing, laughing, really big belly laughs, yawning. These are all things that are going to stimulate the vagus nerve to
Nice.
tell our brains that we're not being chased by a tiger. So that's the whole purpose of our nervous system has two, we have an on-off switch, right? If we're in state of relaxation, we're in one side of our nervous system. If we're in fight or flight, we're in the opposite. And laughing, yawning, singing, those things tell our bodies that we're safe. So red lights, turn on the music, belt out whatever's on, force yourself to yawn.
I
And
love
when I
that.
mean
Music
like,
is a serious mood shifter. I have
yeah,
something that I'll reshare in the notes. I call it a caregiver anthem playlist, like
oh,
things that
that's
just
good.
remind me of caregiving. And so it's a Spotify playlist that, like, songs that have encouraged me. And some of them, they're all over the place a little bit. Some are slower, some are faster. But yeah, I'll share that because I do think music can be a mood shifter. And sometimes I call those my happiness 911 songs, where it's
Yeah,
like, and sometimes you need to feel the feels, right? Like the intention is not always to like really go straight to happiness, but it's like, no, I need to sit in this moment and feel this feeling.
yeah,
And so sometimes music can help with that too.
for sure. Absolutely. It allows us to express the things that are kind of pent up. And that's what helps us move out of fight or flight into a state of calm. And then my favorite ever since I was a kid, I used to get in trouble for laughing. That was always my like defense. Like I'm 7 years old and somebody gets hurt. I was so freaked out I would laugh. It's not because I thought it was funny, but that was my sort of defense, I guess.
Yeah.
Laughter is like one of the best things we can do. And so, and it's really hard to find anything funny in those really serious scenarios, right? So I would give myself permission to, and the house is quiet, he's passed out, there's nobody around, I'm depressed. I would turn on an old movie from the 80s, Steve
Yes.
Martin, like um, Chevy Chase, those types of things. Or
Yeah.
I would,
Fletch,
yeah,
Caddyshack.
yes. Or
Yeah.
and things that I knew would make me laugh, or I would turn on a stand up comedy show,
Nice.
and I'd access laughter. And again, that signifies your vagus nerve that you're okay, you're safe, and you start to process.
Such great tips for us, accessible things that we can do. Yeah, Seinfeld, The Office, like these little shows that are 20 minutes on
Yeah.
streaming. Amazing. What I'm curious, like, your husband's, how is he now, by the way?
He's he's healing. They don't find any cancer cells in his body. They don't say cancer free or remission, but they just
Yeah.
say no cancer cells. And
Mm.
I never use the word fine afterwards because it's like right? How do you do what just happened? And then so he's finding himself. He's exploring what he wants and where he wants to
Yeah.
go next. He's on a healing journey. I'm on a healing journey.
And that was kind of my next question is like, he's been through this burnout with you before, or was he not in the picture when
He
that happened?
wasn't there. No.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
And then he gets this diagnosis of cancer. How was he with like, because I think as caregivers, we feel guilty, right? That we can't also, I do feel like when a care recipient gets a diagnosis, we also get a diagnosis. It's a
Yep.
very different type of thing, but life has uprooted and changed for us. How was he with like, no, this isn't about you, Carrie, you don't get to feel burned out.
Um,
What's that like?
he never, yeah, actually. So I wrote throughout the entire experience, and that was very much like I have to process, I have to
So
write.
healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And towards the end of it, we were trying to find the rhythm and the balance again, right? Because the equilibrium gets so far off. It wasn't a pretty picture, right? Like there's a lot of I do have a say in this,
Yeah.
and that's why everything I put out right now is called "I Saved You Do the Dishes" because we have to.
That's your podcast. I
Yeah,
love that name.
I
I
matter too,
Yeah, I
and
saved you. Now, wait,
now
say it
do the.
again.
I saved you. Now do the dishes.
Yeah, so brilliant.
So
Yeah.
it is, and that is a common thing where caregivers we do feel like we're sort of
Yeah, how
invisible.
dare
Maybe.
us?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I.
No, I mean, and that's, part of marriage is like, you know, I married 28 years, married my prom date, we've had our caregiving years, we've had our ups and downs of, job losses and random things. But yeah, every now and then it's just like that communication has to come out where you're like, okay, like I literally just said to him recently, like, I don't want to own meal planning and prep and cooking. Like, you didn't marry that woman. That's not me.
Yeah.
So like you're gonna have to, I know you're busy like working three different consulting jobs right now, and I'm busy too, but like we're gonna have to figure this out.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
for sure.
sustainable.
Yeah, so in the spaces where I was like, this is what I need. I said it the other day. I was, like, I need this from you, and he's very, he understands. He's very agreeable. There were things about his treatment that he didn't want me to have an opinion on, but again, I'm like, well, we're in this together, and
Yeah.
so I'm
You
going
didn't
to
marry
say what
that
I
person.
yeah, yeah,
She's
I'm
got
going to say what I'm
opinions.
going to say.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my opinion. Whether or not you take it is up to you. But
Yeah.
so it is hard. I mean, family caregiving is definitely hard when you're married to the person that you're caregiving for and you're living in the same space. It's messy
It's
and
messy.
yeah, very
Yeah.
relatable, right? So
Yeah. Yes. Well, actually, my husband teases me at kind of tongue in cheek way that I'm not going to be a very good caregiver for him, which I find hilarious. But I'm like, I'm a tough love kind of caregiver. I'm going to push back and make you kind of do as much as you can do and be a part of your own care team. But every now and then he'll say
yeah,
that to me, and I was like, listen, I'm a better cheerleader for caregivers than I am a hands-on caregiver. That's just who I am. So
that's good.
um, but yeah, hopefully we don't get to explore that. But I do, and you're going to be part of kind of this partner caregiver, spousal caregiver stuff, like curated content on Happy Healthy Caregiver. So people,
Oh,
because I
cool.
know that every kind of caregiving situation has its own nuances, whether
Yeah.
you're young, male, sandwich generation, or whatever. So kind of tapping into what makes sense there. I've also stalked you a little bit, Carrie. You're a fabulous writer, by the way. I haven't
Oh,
read your
thank
books,
you.
but I've read your Huffington Posts,
Thank
and
you.
I'm pulled in. And you've had a couple really, at least a couple, I should say. We all kind of have those, but the you found out about his diagnosis through a voicemail. That was one post. And then tell us a little bit about this physician assistant.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. So yeah, so we went to, Gavin and I talk about this all the time, that I feel like the entire situation was so messed up, giving us opportunity to share what we've learned. And I mean, advocacy was something I did not expect to have to do, to the point where I'm literally fighting the hospital to save his life.
Yeah.
And that's what we were
Why is this
dealt,
so hard? Yeah.
right? So the original PA that was assigned to his case, a very egotistical woman who needed to be heard. And unfortunately, I don't believe that she should have been in a patient-facing position. And she really did not like my husband. And he fought hard. He didn't want. He was 50 years old when we went through this, and
Yeah.
he wanted to walk into every meeting, and he didn't want to use wheelchairs. He
He was
really struggled.
proud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had a hard time accepting the fact that he was going to be in as much pain as they said. And even when the doctors were like, "You're going to experience some pain. You'll want to take these drugs and want to take these nerve ending things," and my husband was like, "I'll be fine. I'll be fine." He wasn't. So week after week, we have to meet with this woman, and she's commenting on his weight loss and saying, how are you eating? Are you keeping up your calories? And I was like Johnny on the spot when it came to calories. If he could eat, I'm loading up, cheese and butter, and I'm counting calories and butter,
Yeah.
and so come week 4, week 5, it's recommended that he get a feeding tube. And he and I get into an argument, and he's like, "I don't want a feeding tube. I want to fight this. I want to do this. I want to do this." And he's really sick. He's really weak.
Yeah.
I'm like, we
You're
need,
watching this and
yeah.
you're like, I,
I'm like,
I
I'm
want
to
you
the
to have the
point where I'm
feeding tube.
like, you're going to die without this. We need this.
Yeah.
So I say, have the GI team call me. And Gavin's like, "I don't want one." So he's asleep. And the GI team calls a couple days later. And I'm like, well, he's not really ready for a feeding tube, but talk to me. What is this like? And the GI department says, well, we can't see him for at least 2 months. And I'm like, he needs a feeding tube now. I'm ready to drive him to the hospital now.
Yeah. Like he's not going to live 2 months.
Right. And so it goes into our record that I deny the consult because 2 months doesn't matter. 2 months, he'll be dead. So we show back up for the next week's meeting, which is just a couple days later, and we sit back down with this PA, and she rips into Gavin. He hasn't ate in days. He hasn't drank in days. We're literally on this bench. He's passed out on my lap. She walks in. We don't say anything to her, because he can't speak.
Yeah.
And at this point, Gavin had developed he had developed a side effect of radiation where he had second-degree burns all around his neck and inside his mouth. It hurt to speak. But he had ropes of mucus. And so he would literally pull out ropes of mucus, and he's spitting blood everywhere. And oh my God, it was awful.
I'm so sorry, Carrie. Like it's, really,
It was awful. And
it was
so
awful.
she walks in and she immediately starts ridiculing Gavin about, her
Should have done it.
Yeah. And I didn't even get a chance to say the 2-month thing. She was like, you missed your opportunity to get a feeding tube and you make my job hard.
This is your
And
fault, essentially.
yes, blamed
Yeah.
him. And so my husband, who's practically passed out, he can't see out of both of his eyes. Only one eye opens a little bit. He is apologizing to this woman, and I couldn't let him do that. I
No.
couldn't take it. So I leaned into her and I got as close to her as I probably a little bit too close, but I was pissed. And I'm like, you know what? Your job is to work with him, and what you're doing is unappreciative. I need you to do your job. And I said, you took an oath to do no harm, and what you're doing is harmful.
Harmful.
And
And what you're saying is harmful.
she didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just stared at me. And my husband,
So like a robot.
It was
Yeah.
the tension in that room was really high, and he grabs my hand and he kisses it, and he's like, "It'll be okay," and I'm like, "It's not gonna be okay. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
You need a feeding tube." So this woman was like, "You better pray to your lucky stars. I can work some magic." So I just stood him up and we left that room. And then he actually did have radiation, and he had an infusion, so he had some
Mm.
liquid in his body. And it was like we went home wait for him to die. Like we didn't know what to do. A couple hours later, his actual radiologist called and said, get him to the ER. We've already notified a team. They're expecting him. They're going to admit him, and we're going to work him in the schedule somehow. Like
Wow.
it was a
Well, and
nightmare.
you had already gone by, like, I mean, like, why make this so much? Why make things harder for caregivers
I know.
and all of that?
I didn't know, I mean, when you're in the moment, you're just running on pure adrenaline and everything's on fire and you're drowning
Yeah.
and
You're tired, you're all of that. And so you did an important step though too, like I want people to take from this too, is that you got it removed from the team.
yep.
How do you do that?
So a couple of days later, he's admitted to the long-term cancer wing. He's almost dead by the time we admitted him. And she
Mm.
kept showing up into his room and ridiculing him for not having the strength to do radiation. And at some point,
It's
he's
like
like,
abuse. That's abuse.
yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, so he was unaudible. I was speaking on his behalf, but they gave him a suction tube to remove the mucus, and she walks into the room and he grabs the tube off the wall, and she's giving him a hard time for not having the strength to do radiation, and gets the mucus out of his mouth and he goes, "I want an anti-anxiety drug, clear as day." And she's like, "That'll be too hard for me to get. Why can't you just muscle up and do radiation?" And he does it again and he's like, "I need you to treat me." And she started laughing at him. At that point,
Mm.
I told her to leave the room.
Yeah.
I wasn't nice about it. Gavin wasn't nice about it. And she went out into the hallway and started talking trash about him to the nurse in the nurse's bay. And I walked over to the patient advocate department and had her removed, filed a complaint against
Did
her.
you know that that department existed? Like everybody has these, right?
I didn't know
Every
before he had cancer, and
yeah.
we had issues with her throughout the entire experience. Like, she was mean to him. She should not have been
No.
she shouldn't have a medical license. She shouldn't be in patient facing positions. And people kept saying, "Well, if you need to say something, say something. There's this department you can go to." But yeah, I had her removed. I filed a complaint against her, filed a complaint against the nurse. I made it so where nobody could speak to Gavin before speaking to me. I mean, he was on so many drugs.
Yeah, so fragile. Like everybody, and just a horrible experience. But I'm hoping that people can take away, and I'm glad that you got the help that you both needed, and that she was removed from your situation. And maybe she'll be removed from that position, and somebody else won't have to endure all of that because it's abuse. It's
It
abuse
is.
for
Yep,
sure.
for sure. Yep.
So horrible. And
Yeah.
I'm going to link to your podcast. I'm going to link to the Huffington Post articles that you wrote
Thank
about
you.
that and about the voicemail, so people can learn about that. I want to kind of also, because you're the burnout expert, which is amazing. But we hear this term compassion fatigue. Is that the same as burnout?
No, compassion fatigue is something that it's compassion fatigue happens when caregivers or healthcare professionals come in feeling as if they're going to make the difference, and they take on so much of the pain of the patient. And it gets to the point where maybe they have several patients that they're doing this with, or several cases that they're doing this with. It gets to the point where they just don't have anything left to give. And so they're apathetic. They're almost feeling hopeless. It's more of a place of deep depression than a burnout is. It's anxiety, it's fight or flight. We're in this rat race.
I gotcha.
Caregiving
Yeah.
fatigue is more of a state of hopelessness.
Yeah, thank you for explaining those differences. They're both,
Very
we're at
common.
risk for both of them,
Yep.
frankly,
Hmm.
for sure. I know you have a product too that you have called the Burnout Recovery Affirmation Cards. Talk to us about those.
Yeah, when I was sitting in the hospital, sometimes I would literally just sit on the floor and I would feel the coldness on the floor and I would stretch my body. And I couldn't, I would do everything I could while I was in radiation to just be present, but that was really hard. And I felt like if I had a focal point or something pretty to look
Mm.
at, right? So sometimes I would turn on something on my phone, pretty music or a pretty image, and I would focus on it while I was stretching. And when I got out of his treatment and I could put more energy into me, I was like, somebody should have these. Everyone's doing card decks. Somebody should do something for burnouts
Mm.
and self care, but I couldn't find anything, so I made those. So it's
Nice.
a really pretty deck, focused on very simple burnout recovery techniques and tools, very simple, practical self care tools that we sometimes forget. A lot to do with all the things we discussed: the laughter, the sighing, the breathing techniques.
Yeah. Try it on, see if it
Yeah,
works for you. So
yeah,
on one side, the beautiful setting,
yeah.
and on
And on
the
the
other
other,
side,
a
the
really
tipper
simple tip.
technique. So nice. Well, we'll link to those. I know that they're out on Amazon, so we'll certainly link to those in
Thank
the
you.
show notes.
Cool.
Are you ready, Carrie, for
Yeah.
the lightning round?
Yes.
Look at you. Yeah. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you a couple of the prompts from the Just For You Daily Self Care Journal. Like you, writing was really therapeutic for me. And it helped me kind of process, like you
Yeah.
said, you use that same word. Like there's so much going on, you have to sit and be present and kind of process it through, and it's very therapeutic.
Yep.
But journaling's not for everybody. So I wanted a way for people to kind of try it on to see if it worked for them.
Okay.
So picked out a couple things here. Let's see. First question, and they're, putting some focus back on yourself. What celebrity would you choose to spend the day with and why?
Oh my goodness, that's a good one. Man, I don't have. Okay, let me think. I'm being so mindful right now of not choosing like a really hot guy because my husband is in the house and I know I'll
Oh,
hear
that's
about it
okay.
later.
Yeah.
I would say, I've always really been a fan of Julia Roberts from I think she's had
Pretty
a really
Woman.
interesting career. She stepped away from Hollywood to be a mom. She, yeah, I've always been a fan of hers. I would love to sit and chat with her and find out more about her life.
Yeah, and she's got an infectious laugh,
Yes,
so that there'd probably be some humor involved. But yeah, Mystic Pizza, like
right.
Pretty Woman, she's got great stuff to enjoy there. How do you unwind before bedtime?
I I'm a big shower, like bath.
You're a water person,
Yeah, the
like, yeah.
products, the lotion, all that stuff. And so I look at it as like I start my day with it. I close my day with it. It's sort of my internal signal that, okay, now we're moving into something else. So I will close the day with a shower and then, lotion, lavender, things like that. My husband and I typically spend time together and I'll usually ask him to rub my feet.
Ah. Does he do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I got a
Yeah.
foot massager for my son for Christmas, like one of those, you just stick your feet in it.
I love it. Do you
I'm the
like
only one
it?
who can use it without socks. Everyone else has to wear socks if they use it. I think
Yeah.
that's like gross, but yeah.
I
So it's
I've seen advertisements for that. I've always wondered if they work.
Yeah, I play pickleball too, and my feet always kind of feel like I have issues. I feel like, well, maybe if I like worked at it a little bit, I can, we only get two pair of feet. Or we
Yeah.
only get one pair of feet, I guess I should say.
Fair.
Um, who do you lean on for support?
I'm really close to my family, and so my husband and I are, really good friends, and so I will tell him what's going on, what I need. We're very open communication that way. He'll ask me what I need from him. I have really good relationships with my sister, with my parents, with my brother.
Nice. Do they
And
live near you?
yep.
Nice.
And then some really good girlfriends. They've all been very supportive, very helpful. Tap in and I'm very truthful about, how I feel, what I'm going through. I don't try to hide anything. So I'm super grateful. I do actually have a really nice support group.
Yeah. Have you always been that way, or did you have to work at it?
I've always been that way. I feel like I knew I was supposed to be a writer very early on in my life, and sharing has always been a very natural thing for me. So I don't really close that off when I'm having personal
Yeah.
conversations. If anything, people are like, you share too much.
Yeah. It's at first I tried to kind of, keep it all inside and like, oh, you think you can kind of muscle through it and all of that. But I did find that the more transparent and vulnerable I was, the more I saw myself more clearly and the more help that came out there.
Yeah.
It's hard at first, but you get good at it like anything. You just like
Yeah.
practice it. Yeah. It's a lot. Okay, question right. This is a good question for our topic today. It says, currently your life feels balanced or unbalanced because,
Today, I would say balanced. For me, it's literally like a day to day thing.
yeah.
Yeah. We have had, an additional health scare in the family, and so earlier this week I would have said otherwise because it was a very, very tense couple of days with meetings and consults and stuff. But today, recognizing that I can put space between meetings, and that is something I have to practice. I have to remind myself. I have to go with the flow. I have to be in flow. And how am I going to put that into play today? And so today I'm balanced.
I love that.
Thank
I love
you.
that. Anything that you would, you want to share that we did not cover today that you feel like, oh yeah, we can't end this without talking about this, or any other, anything you want to say to family caregiver community?
Yeah. Well, it's so challenging making sure that you are vocal, that you do have a support group, that you are utilizing the tools. If you need help finding, there's so many resources for us that you actually have to go out and seek, because it's not like doctors and hospital networks and social workers are handing these things out.
Wouldn't that be amazing if they said,
Yeah.
here, this looks like a lot for you?
So
Yeah.
there are house cleaning services that will offer support. There are organizations. Oh, Lasagna Love is a great organization. It's a national organization. They they deliver sheet pans of lasagna to,
Amazing.
yes. So there's tons of organizations like this out here, but we don't hear of them. You just have to do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
So
And that's why, following people like you and I and other people in this space, like I know we're fast tracking people to that information, like what we went through, helping somebody that doesn't have to go through a similar
yeah,
journey, and learning every day, like,
yeah,
right. Like I've been in this space for 10 years and I've never heard of Lasagna Love. It's just learning every day, and caregivers have the best tips.
that was
Where do
so.
people, oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. It was a fun day, like opening up my front door, and there's a man standing there. Hi, I'm with Lasagna Love. Someone nominated you for a lasagna, and it's a vegetable lasagna. It had a heart in the middle of it, and my husband had head and neck cancer. He can't eat, and so this was about halfway through his journey, and I felt I had this whole sheet pan of lasagna all to myself. So it was a beautiful day, actually. Like my whole family came out, and he was sleeping like the whole day. So it was like we had a
Yeah.
normal day.
With some social self-care, some
Yeah.
physical self-care. Someone went through the process of nominating you for
Yeah.
that, which that feels good. So
Yeah. It was
what
great.
an amazing thing. How
Yeah.
do how do people connect with you, Carrie? Like where should they be following you? Where's the best place to kind of learn more about you?
Yeah. So I'm on social media with author Carrie Severson, Instagram, TikTok, the website, carrieseverson.com. You can always find me there and contact me there.
I love it. And check out the podcast. We'll link to the books. There's a lot of
Yeah.
good information out
Thank you.
there. Delighted to have met you. I'm
Likewise.
grateful for your vulnerability that you've been, blessed with. And again, like I said, that you've got this expertise in burnout that now you can, push through a caregiving filter. So
Thank
just
you.
thank you. Thank you for everything
Thanks.
that you offer.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast on the Whole Care Network. I hope this episode provided encouragement and practical tips to infuse into your life. You'll find the show notes and all the resources mentioned at happyhealthycaregiver.com. I also invite you to check out previous episodes of the podcast that you may have missed. If you enjoy the show, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Ratings and reviews also help others discover the podcast, and sharing with a fellow caregiver is a great way to spread support. Stay connected with me between the episodes by following Happy Healthy Caregiver on your favorite social media platforms, and subscribe to the weekly newsletter where every week I share something happy, healthy, and care related. Just visit happyhealthycaregiver.com to join. Until our next episode, I'm Elizabeth Miller with a reminder to take care of you. Are you still here? Well, it's time for the disclaimer. I am not a medical, legal, or financial professional, and I am not providing medical, financial, or legal advice. If you have questions related to these topics, please seek a qualified professional. I have taken care to spotlight family caregivers and experts, but their opinions are theirs alone. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the written permission of Happy Healthy Caregiver, LLC. Thanks again for listening to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast on the Whole Care Network.